Welcome back to Season 3 of Your Haunted Neighborhood. It's good to have you here again. Feel that chill? Hear that quiet hum in the walls? Don't worry, you're not lost. You're just on your way to Your Haunted Neighborhood, where every story is a step into the unknown. I'm your host, Jody Bohr. Each week, I share true stories of haunted places, cursed objects, chilling encounters, and the paranormal. In your haunted neighborhood, every flicker of light and every echoing step has a story behind it. Let's follow the trail and see where it leads. Tonight, one of our haunted neighbors has a story that has found its way to us and is dying to be told. So let's open the door, shall we? Step inside your haunted neighborhood. Vacation rentals are supposed to feel like a home away from home. A place to rest, to feel safe, to escape. But every now and then, you walk into a place that doesn't feel empty, just occupied by something else. And sometimes, whatever's there doesn't like visitors. Tonight's story isn't about something that followed them home. It's about something that made sure they didn't stay. This story is called Haunted AirBnB. This is all a true story. And out of my entire life of experiencing the paranormal, this story takes the cake. So about 4 years ago. A little background, because it's pretty necessary for my story. This sounds corny, but I've always had a weird sense when it comes to the paranormal. Not like I can talk to ghosts or summon demons, but I do get the super weird feeling in my gut when something like this happens. Also, my mom is a skeptic and has never fully believed in ghosts. Anyway, mid-2022, me, my mom, my aunt, and my cousin planned a trip down to Florida for about 5 days. We got a pretty small Airbnb for us to stay in, and we were pretty excited. The house was like this. Walk in, and straight ahead of you is a kitchen. To your right, a small dining room, and a small hallway to the bathroom. My room and my mom's room. To the left was the living room, and my cousin's and aunt's room. My cousin and aunt had a volleyball tournament to go to on the 4th day, so they wouldn't be at the Airbnb for the 5th day. The first day, nothing crazy happened. No odd feelings, nothing. It was on the 2nd day, the first odd occurrence happened. At about 11 p.m., I thought I was the last one in the house awake, as everyone else was tired from the long day we had. Just as I was getting to sleep, I started to hear someone pressing the buttons of the microwave. I figured my cousin was warming up her leftovers from dinner, so I shook it off. However, the microwave wasn't turning on. Only the buttons were being pressed. I thought I was just imagining things and went to bed. The morning of the 3rd day came as we were driving to one of the parks. I asked who was screwing with the microwave the night before. It turns out nobody was out of their rooms the entire night. However, my cousin heard the same thing and was annoyed as the constant beeping woke her up. We pointed out the creepiness and went on with our day. So after the day was over, we got home. It got late, and I was the last one awake. By about 10 p.m., I started to hear faint knocking on the wall behind my bed. I figured it was neighbors, so I ended up not thinking much of it. That was until I turned the light off to go to sleep. As I was laying there, I saw a white orb come out slowly floating from the corner of the doorway and make its way to the middle of the room, just to dart back from where it came from. I nearly peed my pants, so I decided it was sleep with the lights on time. After I turned on the lights, the knocking started back up, but this time it was clearly coming from the wall connected to the bathroom, which debunked my neighbor theory. The knocking continued from the wall behind me and the bathroom wall. I was also hearing the microwave buttons being pressed again. Once it started to slightly calm down, I was finally able to go to bed. It was about 2 a.m. at this point, so this went on constantly for about 4 hours. The next day was the 4th day of our trip. I decided to tell everyone what happened and what I saw, but was brushed off by everyone, including my mom. So I decided to just stay quiet about it the rest of the day. By the time night came around, my cousin and aunt had left the Airbnb. As it was getting later in the night, probably around 8 p.m., I heard the faint sound of knocking coming from behind my bed, and I decided to go sit in my mom's room with her. But the knocking continued from the bathroom, loud enough for me and my mom to hear. Eventually, the knocking seemed to be coming from every room in the house, yet very faintly. And may I add, I was getting the worst gut feeling I've ever experienced. This really started to spook me and my mom. The breaking point was when a bottle that was in the then vacant room was thrown loud enough for me and my mom to hear it across the house, roughly 30 feet away. By this point, the knocking was coming from every room in the house at the same time, very loudly. It felt like something out of an Exorcist movie. So we decided to pack up and get a hotel for the night. As I was bringing my duffel bag out to the living room, there was a very loud, obvious footsteps stomping behind me. It sounded like someone was walking right on my heels. However, the trippiest part about this whole experience was when I picked up my duffel bag and said, "Okay, we are leaving." Dead silence. The knocking stopped, and the horrible feeling of dread went away. And we left and got a hotel. I left a note saying, "Stop renting out this place. It's haunted." I did a little digging later, and it stopped being rented in September of 2025. Some places aren't meant to be understood. just escaped. Stories like this, they don't just scare you, they stick with you. Let's talk about what still haunts me. Because it didn't happen all at once. It built slowly, night after night, like something was testing how far it could go. First, the sounds, then the knocking, then something you could see, like the bottle getting tossed across the room, the sounds in all the rooms. What really stands out here is how aware it all felt. The way it spread through the house, the way it responded, and especially the way it stopped. The exact moment they said they were leaving. That doesn't feel random. It feels like something that understood what was happening. And then there's that gut feeling, that deep, heavy sense of dread that doesn't come from imagination, but from instinct. You can't ignore noises. You can explain shadows, but when you have that feeling, that's harder to dismiss. And maybe that's the real takeaway here. They didn't try to prove anything. They didn't stay to investigate. They just listened and they left. And honestly, that might be the only reason the story didn't end differently. Because some places aren't meant to be understood, just escaped. Sometimes you just need to leave and leave whatever was there behind. So before you book your next vacation, you may want to ask yourself who or what checked in before you, because not every guest checks out. Whether you're a skeptic, a believer, or somewhere in between, thank you for walking beside me through these shadowed streets. I hope the stories left you chilled, spellbound, and perhaps even a little haunted yourself. Stay close to the street light and watch where the sidewalk leads. If you'd like to submit your stories, send them to YourHauntedNeighborhood@gmail.com, and you can hear your story featured on Your Haunted Neighborhood podcast. I hope you'll come back for the next story. I'm your host, Jody War, and you've been listening to Your Haunted Neighborhood. Until next time, stay close, stay curious, and stay haunted. See you around the neighborhood.